My name is Jill Bearup, and for my sins, I have 500,000 YouTube subscribers, and I'm not quite sure how that happened. I have been on YouTube since 2011, back in the olden days. I used to be on a platform called Blip TV, which was, it's going to be YouTube, but for serial content. So it's not just random cat videos. It's, you know, fun. It's things which are a series. Blip got bought out by a multi-channel network called Maker TV, and Maker TV got bought out by Disney, and then they closed it down. But for a brief period of time, I was paid by the Disney Corporation. Like, that was where my ad revenue came from. So I am a Disney princess, and anyone who tells you different is lying. I have 15 tips, but mostly what I want to be is useful, so I'm going to give you them as quickly as possible, and then we're going to go. And whenever you see YouTube content things, they're always like, make things you're passionate about, and I'm really sorry, that's point number 2. But the first one is that you actually have to make things. I have been to a lot of conventions, video and YouTube-focused conventions, and people will come and they will talk and they will say, yes, I'm doing a channel and it's about this, and you look on the channel and there's nothing there. And no one can help you if there is no content. It's a bit like writing. Until you put words on the page, you can edit your words on the page into something good, but you have to write something first. And it's the same with YouTube. You have to actually make something before you can get better, you have to be bad. Yep, there we go. Make things you like is point number 2, because if you don't, there are 2 things that can happen. If you make content you don't like, 99.9% of the time, everyone will know that you hate it, and they won't want to watch either, because would you want to watch someone do things they hate? I mean, maybe, but that's kind of niche. The other 0.1% of the time is that you do something you hate, and people won't actually watch it. And now you are stuck, because the only thing that they want you to make is something you actively hate. So you either have to try and pivot, and then they won't watch, or you just have to keep doing the thing you hate. I have seen it. It's not pretty. Don't do that. Enjoy the learning process is number 3, because YouTubing and all social media, you spend a lot of time with nobody watching you. And so that's also why you have to make things that you actually like, because the feedback, the reward mechanism of getting better at things has to be enough for at least the first little while, unless you're one of those weird unicorns who goes like super viral. I have 500,000 subscribers now. In my first 9.5 years on YouTube, I got to 23,000 subscribers, which is still a large amount, right? But 9.5 years before I could make it a career. So you have to enjoy getting better at stuff, otherwise, oh yeah, that's the other one. Once you've made videos, they have to watch the video in order to care about it, which is where packaging comes in. This is less important with YouTube Shorts and TikToks and stuff, because with TikTok there isn't even a title. It's just the algorithm does its thing. TikTok is a weird place. They haven't noticed that I'm an old person yet, which is good, but it's a very strange place. On YouTube, though, if you have long-form videos, the title and the thumbnail, if you don't make a title and thumbnail that people think, oh, that's interesting, then they're not going to do anything. They're not going to click. And you could make the most amazing video, but if nobody actually watches it, how are they going to know that they should care? I fail at this one in real life, but I'm very good at being concise in video form, usually, because that's what editing is for. In real life, I just keep talking. But I am attempting to be concise, I swear. Right. Do you know what bean soup... If I say to you bean soup, do you know what I mean? Well, I mean, it is a food, yeah. So, on TikTok, a couple of years ago, a lady who does recipes made a video, and she said, This is my bean soup recipe. It has like 10 kinds of beans in it, and you chop up an onion, and she gives you the whole recipe, and she said it's really good, you know, for women, you know, at certain points in your menstrual cycle, lots of iron in it, all of these sorts of things. Here are the kinds of beans you need. Here is how you make the bean soup. The comment section was a trash fire of people saying, but what if I don't like beans? This is a recipe for bean soup. Go elsewhere. Yes. When you start getting comments on YouTube videos, and this is particularly bad on TikTok, but it's now bad on YouTube as well, because algorithms bring people stuff now. They don't choose to watch things as much. And so you get the bean soup people. Well, what about this? Well, what about this? This is, you know, I have 1,800 blocked words on my list for YouTube comments. And among them are like names of prominent American politicians. Every time there's an election, I'm like, right, who's running? Ban that word and that word. I make videos about swords and like romance books and, you know, fandom drama. There is no need for you to be talking about politics, but it's the bean soup thing. Run from those people. Do not engage with them. You know, if they're like, but what if I don't like beans? Then say, well, go look for a different recipe. Double down is, well, when you find something that works, eventually, statistically, if you make enough videos, you eventually find something that works a little bit better than the other things did. So when you've done that, this is why you should never make anything that you abjectly hate. When you find something that actually works, go, yes, I will make more of that, because people have told you that they're interested in it, so why not? Make friends. Okay, make friends, apparently it's called networking. This is an awesome spot to make friends. I've heard so many people tell me, it's like, well, you know, I came to SFeraKon and that's where I met my boyfriend. I came to SFeraKon and that's where I met this really awesome person. It's really nice. When people tell you to network, it sounds kind of, I don't know, like, it sounds gross, but it really just means make friends with interesting people. And there are a lot of interesting people around here, so you should definitely make friends with them. I'm just saying. And I don't just say that because you feed me, but partially. Experiments are great. This is, when you start making videos or any kind of content, you don't know what you're good at, and you don't know what people want. And so it's not a good idea, if you've only just started, to get into I am this kind of YouTuber, I'm this kind of TikToker, this kind of Instagrammer, I only make videos about this. Because, first of all, you will get bored. It doesn't matter how much you love the topic, you will get bored eventually. And second, people might not care what you think about it, which sounds mean, but I have a lot of videos that I've made, and I'm like, people aren't going to watch this as much because they don't care. But I care, so I'm making it anyway. But always experiment, because you never know what people are going to want. The audience is an interesting and fickle thing. This is a very confusingly titled slide, and it's because I couldn't make it all fit on one line without making the font smaller. But basically, if you have money to spend on video content, sound is where you want to spend it. If you have no money to spend, that's okay, because I assume that you all have smartphones. And so what you need is a room that doesn't echo horribly, and a smartphone, and a window. Or when I started making videos, I filmed in crisp 480p on my digital camera, which was extremely snazzy. Well, it was extremely snazzy when I bought it in like 2007. And I stacked it, because I didn't have a tripod, so I stacked it on an ironing board, and then I got a bunch of textbooks, and I put it on top of that and just sort of balanced it there. But, I mean, the first thing I bought was a tripod, which was a good one, but if you have money to spend, sound is better, because people will put up with you looking like you filmed it on a potato in a cave. But if you sound like you're in a cave, then they'll be like, no, I'm out, thank you very much. microphones. They're great and getting cheaper, which is lovely. If you're making content, and I think any kind of content really, videos, books, podcasts, whatever, the ultimate aim is to, I mean, you can write books for yourself, but then you can't be offended if no one else reads them. You have to make content to serve people. And sometimes that serving people is, here is a ridiculous thing that I find out about. Please come and laugh at it with me. Like, entertainment is a completely worthy goal, but it's good to make content that people like. And it's good to make content that makes you feel like you're helping other people, even if that helping is just, you saw the thing that I made, and it made you feel a bit better after a really terrible day. I think having a kind of service attitude to it probably makes you less insane in the long term, especially if you try and do it in the long term. All right, number 12 is be ready for serendipity, because sometimes it happens. Every single successful YouTuber, TikToker, Instagrammer, or Snapchat famous people a thing? I have no idea. Okay, none of you know either, that's fine. Every single one of them is survivorship bias in action. We will all tell you what we did, but what we will not say is that 999 other people also did those things, and it didn't work for them. But a way you can stack the odds in your favor is you make the best content you can, and you keep an eye on the things that are happening around you. And then if something interesting happens, like there is a competition for videos. I got a free ticket to a VidCon once because they were like, you have to make a video of like 3 minutes or less, and we'll pick the best video and we'll give you cool stuff. I did not win the competition, but they were like, we liked your video though, would you like a free ticket? I was like, yeah. Everyone who gets famous on YouTube, we're all survivorship bias. We all did the things that everybody tries to do, it just worked for us. But usually that's because something serendipitous happened and we were ready to take advantage of it. And when the serendipitous thing happens, because sometimes it does, it feels really good. It feels so good. In 2020, I was making YouTube videos full-time, and I made this video, and it's called How to Hide a Sword in Your Dress. So there we go. And I thought, this is, sometimes I think this is a really good video and nobody cares. But this one I was like, I think this is a good video. I think this is a good video. And I put it up, and I came back like a week later, because, I had work, I had a little child, there was a lot going on. I was like, that's a lot of views. That's a lot of people. And so I have some friends who are also full-time YouTubers, and so I was texting like, look at the thing. And one of them said to me, and I've never forgotten this, he was like, enjoy this, because it feels really good, like number go up. Everybody loves it when the number goes up. It's so exciting. He was like, but it will stop probably within the next couple of weeks. Do not chase this high, because if you do, you will go mad and you will end up being one of those YouTubers who like crashes their car while drunk and everything's on fire or something, because they're trying to get back the thing which they sort of got by accident. So yes, if something good happens to you, you should definitely enjoy it, but also don't chase that feeling for the rest of your life, because otherwise you'll end up like Disney Channel stars. You know the ones. And in the same vein, like the only person you should have competition with is you. I'm not saying that if there's someone in your general niche who you're like, I could do better than that. Like a little competition in your head. I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't do that, but your main competition should be yourself, because the algorithm, while theoretically it represents the audience, is a weird and fickle thing. And sometimes it loves you, and sometimes it hates you, and most of the time it is just entirely indifferent to you, because who are you, tiny human? But if you can say to yourself, this thing I made is better than that previous thing I made, I think that's worth something regardless of how many people watch it. I'm on 14. I'm going well. This is where I get on my little soapbox, but briefly, I promise. Which is character over clout. Which is to say, there are lots of things you can do to get briefly famous on the internet. And probably you should not do most of them because they're not going to be good for you. It kind of comes back to that service thing. Like, if you're making stuff and you genuinely want to help people in whatever way, you know, maybe you're teaching them how to make really good bread, maybe you're just telling them really ridiculous dad jokes, it doesn't matter. If you are serving people, and if you are like trying to be a good person, I think that's more important than the numbers. And it's also more important for like your long-term health and wellness and sanity. Because I've met a fair number of much more famous YouTubers than me at this point, and the ones who aren't crazy are the ones who do it. They do it for the love of the game, and they do it because they have something they want to say, and they don't stress too much about the numbers. So that's my soapbox, that the sort of person you are is more important always than the number of views that you get. But in the vein of attempting to be helpful, my question is now to you. What questions do you have? How can I be useful to you? What do you want to know, if anything? On the topic of YouTube or videos or whatever you like, really. Yesterday, I answered questions for quite a long time, and it was great. So, hi, you have a question. And I'm giving you the microphone because you have to speak into it, because otherwise the camera can't hear it. Hello.
Can you give us a story about your very first video?
You know I can. You know what? I don't think the very first video I made remains on the internet, but I've worked out that the time frame of it was definitely in the year 2010, because it was an Avatar: The Last Airbender, like AMV. The kids call them edits these days, but it was like a music video. I don't remember what the song was, but it must have been 2010. Because I didn't watch Avatar until 2010, and I'm pretty sure I made like 2 or 3 of those on a YouTube channel which no longer exists. And I went looking for it, but it's not there anymore. The first video of whatever my genre is, I made was 2011, because I read a book called Grand Central Arena by Renn Faire, which is pulpy sci-fi. Some of the characters are secretly anime characters. One of the characters is secretly Kim Possible, but because we never call her Kim Possible, it's fine from a copyright perspective. But I read this book and I really liked it, and I thought other people should also appreciate this book, and so I made a video about it. The author of the book was so hype about this. He saw it, it got like 14 views, but one of them was the author of the book, and he was so hyped about this, and I was like, oh, I'm so happy. But I would say that obscure sci-fi books are possibly not the best thing to start with if you actually want people to watch your videos. So I filmed it on my webcam, and then I reshot it on my digital camera, but it was 90 seconds long, and it was like, here's a video about this book and why it's good, and some of the tropes that are in it, and I liked it, and I think you would like it too. Nobody really actually started watching my videos until like episode 6, which is when I started making videos about Sherlock, which was quite big at the time. So then people actually, like 100 people watched that video. But my very first one was an obscure like pulp sci-fi book, which basically no one else has read. Which was a great learning experience, but maybe not the best choice for getting people to actually watch. Nowadays, I can make videos about whatever I like, to a certain extent, and I know that if they're not a certain number of people will now watch me regardless, but when I started, nobody was going to do that. And even now, if I make videos about things which a large number of people are interested in, I have to assume that most of them don't actually know who I am, which is always a good assumption to make. Like, never go on the internet and go, do you know who I am? Because no, they have no idea. I answered the question. It was too long, but I did answer the question. I'm improving.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to ask a question. It might be a little bit personal, so if you don't want to answer it, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
How do you deal with being YouTube famous? Like, what are the challenges of becoming famous on YouTube? And if there are certain challenges, how do you deal with them?
Nobody knows where I live. That is the first one. So there are definitely challenges because I have had people try to find, they did find my phone number. They also found my address, but it was not the address that I currently lived at. So every time I have moved since then, I'm also about to change my phone number again, but not because of YouTube, just because too many random spam callers have my phone number. But one of the things I do is I'm very careful about people not knowing where I live, even the part of the country that I live in. So I'll tell you where I have lived, but I'm not going to tell you where I live right now. I don't share details, like people know I'm married and they know I have a child. On the internet, she is called Ursa Minor, because my nickname used to be Sursum Ursa, because you had to have a nickname, and Latin puns are funny, honestly. The major challenge is crazy people on the internet, to be honest. Because I'm, like, being YouTube famous is it's just being nerd famous. So like if you go to a convention, people go, oh, it's you. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But very occasionally I have gone out into the real world and people have gone. I was buying my husband a pair of like walking shoes a couple of months ago, and we went into a shop, and so we said, you know, we need some walking shoes in this size. Do you have any black ones? And he was like, yeah. So my husband's sitting there trying on these shoes, and the guy looks at me. Then he looks away. He looks at me. He goes, you know, has anyone ever told you you really look like an author on Instagram? I was like, that's me. It's me. But usually I only get recognized in libraries, at sword-related events, and that one time in a shop. That was, and like one time, many years ago on a train platform, someone came up to me and went, hi. I was with my, you know, like 2-year-old baby at the time. They were like, hi, I don't want to, like, you know, bother you clearly doing things, but I really like your videos. Have a great day. Like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, not having, most of the challenges are related to the fact that if you say something on the internet, now everyone knows it forever. So I would always advise that you don't overshare. I mean, not oversharing on the internet is probably a good idea anyway, but anything the internet knows, they now know forever. And a thing you said when you had 3 followers, everyone now knows when you have 100,000, or if it gets to that point, and you only need one crazy person. And the internet, and indeed life, is not short of crazy people. So, yeah, you have to be a little bit careful. But mostly, I don't live in America, so we have, you know, GDPR laws, and so people aren't allowed to just like randomly share your address. There is another Jill Bearup. She is no relation to me. I know. And she lives in the US. I know what age she is. She's about the same age as my mother. I know all of her phone numbers. I know her political affiliation. I know every address she's lived at in the last 15 years because I went looking for myself to see, like, can anyone find me on the internet? And instead I found this elderly lady. And I hope really stupid people don't try and find me on the internet, because otherwise she's going to have a bad day. But, you know, I doubt that she has, you know, Twitter, so she's probably going to be okay. See, answering the question. I'm doing it. I'm not getting any faster, but it was the question.
It's a related question. How do you deal with burnout? Because you mentioned you had young child, or now it's much older, you have your private responsibilities, and there is a pressure of constantly putting material out, especially when numbers start growing in.
Yeah. Burnout it's very real, and it's a very real problem for a lot of people, but I think that there is, if you're a full-time YouTuber, it is different, because your livelihood is on the internet, and so I would advise staying away from full-time content creation as a job if you value your sanity, or at least stay away from it as long as you can, if you have a job that actually pays you money. Because if you get burned out on YouTube, yeah, maybe people will be disappointed if you say, you know, I'm not putting out so many videos at the minute, or I'm changing direction, but in the end, it is just numbers on a screen kind of thing. So burnout for people who rely on it for their income is a problem. I have got around this by luck, by which I mean I wrote a book by accident. Well, the writing part wasn't by accident. It took a really long time, but I have now found that when I make videos, I can say, if you want to support the channel, you can be a patron, or you can buy this book, which, as it turns out, is much better than trying to get sponsorships. And now I don't have to take sponsorships anymore, because I'm just like, no, I sponsor me, buy my book. This worked really well at SFeraKon, and now I have no books left. So I would normally be like, yes, please buy a copy of my book, except I put them all in the suitcase and then everyone has bought them, which is great for me. Yeah. YouTube will tell you that it does not penalize you if you take a break. And that is true and also not true. It won't rate your video lower because you took a break and went and did something else. But people will remember you less, and so it probably will perform worse. But YouTube, more than ever, YouTube ranks and shares and rates videos individually now. So it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have. If it's a really good video, it might take a while, but YouTube will find its audience. And so prioritize yourself over the things that you make, because you are more important than the things you make, I think is my main piece of advice there.
Since you mentioned sponsors, I had a question, because I don't remember you having sponsors for a long time. And when I watch other YouTubers, I treat sponsor segment as, okay, fine, they earn money, it's understandable, you just keep it. But sometimes some of those sponsorships are like, that's not a good product. I understand why they're doing it, but it feels not very, ethical. It's strange.
Yeah.
Place.
It is an odd place to be. When I started and I had a smaller channel and I was going full-time, I was with an agency. I've been with 2 agencies now, and they were both pretty good. Neither of them stole my money, which is a big problem with YouTube agencies. So, they were decent people. The first agency, they went and found things for you, and they had a very strict vetting process. So for a long time, they didn't do VPN sponsorships. I don't know if they do them now, but they were like, we have this person, we have these people and these people and these people. We think these are good products and they're a good fit for our audiences. And so they went about it quite ethically, I think, which was nice. The problem is that YouTube pays so badly that in order to make money from it, sponsors are kind of inevitable. But a lot of people's agencies are like my second agency, where they were like, we expect you to tell us. So they would just come to me with any sponsor. It's like, this person said they want to sponsor your video. Do you want it or not? You don't have to say yes. There's no, we're not going to make you. But they have offered, so we're telling you. One of them was established titles. and one of them was like Raid Shadow Legends. And I was so proud. I'm like, I have made it as a YouTuber. I get to turn down a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship. I'm so proud. Yeah, for me, I don't want anything to. I don't want to have anything as a sponsor spot that I look back at in 5 years and go, actually, that sucked. And so I've taken some sponsorships of things which I thought were like, that's pretty good, yeah. And some things I thought that's really good. But I don't know, I've never said anything untrue about a sponsorship. And then I ended up writing a book. And then I went, well, I can talk about my book all day and I don't have to sell anybody's stupid earbuds or, you know, subscription model, whatever. I also really hate subscriptions. So I'm really bad at selling subscriptions. Like, I have a Patreon, but you don't have to sign up to it. And if you do, you can just cancel it anytime you like. Or you can buy my book, and that's just a one-time thing. I'm bad at selling sponsorships, which I think helps, honestly. But it is very ethically tricky, and I am glad that it is no longer a thing I have to think about, and I'm very grateful for that. Also, I just hate sponsor spots in videos, and now we're going to break off for 60 to 90 seconds to tell you about something you can't buy because you're not American. Thanks. Lovely. I mean, I imagine it's even worse for you guys, because, like, at least, you know, some things, like, you can buy this in the US and the UK. Croatia? No. Oh, okay. Anyway.
Where do you find inspiration from new videos, or how, especially after all these years? Is there some sort of process, or are you just instant creative, so things just pop in your mind, or how does it work?
Do you know, I used to have it's still somewhere, but I used to have a list of like interesting video ideas. And then what I found was, as soon as I wrote them on the list, I instantly did not want to do them. So what is nice now is that I can plan a video as long as I want, but I usually have an idea of 2 or 3 things I want to make. But the nicest thing about my job is that I can now follow the thing that I want to make. Like one of the more recent videos I made, because at 4 o'clock I'm going to the thing about the lawsuit, where apparently they're going to read stuff out. I did a video about that. There is a 152-page document, a summary judgment, where a writer comes in and she said, I have written this series which was never published, and this other writer stole my ideas, stole my work, and has had this hugely successful series. At no point in the previous 8 years of this lawsuit had anyone actually sat down and read all of the documents, like all of the books. But the judge did. So she read 6 drafts of the person who was suing, her work. It was called Blue Moon Rising or something like that. And then she also read the entirety of the published Crave series. It was like 5,000 pages of romantasy, young adult, like teenager romantasy. And because it was 6 drafts of the same thing, I went, you know what, that's worth a video. Also, the judge is clearly, the judge has suffered. The judge has suffered, and she's going to make you suffer too. And so she went through and she went, no, they haven't copied you. And there is a brilliant paragraph where she basically says, no, these books are not copies of each other. Twilight did it first for all of these things. And there is the marvelous quote, hot, sexy, dangerous boys are a staple of the genre and cannot be copyrighted. So I went, I'm making a video about that. What does it have to do with anything? Like, you know, I'm mostly known for content about fighting. Nothing. But I liked it, so I was going to make it.
There's a whole lecture about it before.
Exactly, yes. It's a legal battle. Yes, there we go.
There is a whole lecture about it at 4. In an hour.
For you.
I was.
Oh, that's some great eye makeup, by the way.
Thank you. I was just more curious if you also travel throughout Europe on different dimensions. Have you been to Sweden, for example, to our Anemone convention, because we organize fantasy community and nerd community, and it's big, so people love it because we also invite authors and posters and artists from all around the world. So.
No, so this is my second non-UK convention that I've been invited to. In 2018, I went to SFeraKon, which was very fun, though they had a little HEMA stand, and I thought I'm not going to do the HEMA stand before I do my talk. This was a very good instinct, because I got paired up with someone who hit me really hard by accident, and so I hobbled about for the next 2 days. I had a great time, though. No, this is my second one, because I went to Worldcon on my own dime, as it were, and there I met a random collection of Croatian nerds who were like, hey, do you want to come to a convention in Croatia? Like, okay, sure. And they're like, yeah, okay, let's take your details and we'll get back to you. And then
Also got candy.
it's true. It's true. It's like, as long as they don't ask me to get into a van, it's going to be fine. But no, I've had a great time though. So I'm definitely, if any other countries want to invite me to a convention, I'm definitely there. Though clearly I should come to the Balkans more often because, you know, my taxi driver said, it's food, coffee, and beer. That's what we offer you. And I don't drink coffee or beer, so I just get 3 times as much food.
Also bakeries. So many bakeries. Do you have a sword hidden in your dress right now? If no, how would you hide it?
I do not, because, you know, I felt like there were probably convention rules. But this dress does, in fact, have a hidden pocket, which I put in myself. Hang on. The pocket is this big, so I can fit my smartphone in it. I sat down in front of a Bernadette Banner video on how to add pockets to your dresses, and now the pocket won't go back in. Hang on. Yes, so I would definitely put it in there. You could probably do a bodice dagger, but I feel like getting it back out again would be the tricky part. But hidden pocket is where I keep my phone.
One of your devices was experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned how you kind of switched your videos throughout the years. Have you considered at some point to make a separate channel for different types of videos, like one for your fandom stuff, one for sword stuff, because different people watch it?
So I do, in fact, have 3 other channels. I have one which is, I did one on the literary genres of the Bible. So it's 9 episodes, which I filmed in, oh gosh, must have been 2012, of all of the different, you know, it's these are the prophets and these are the historical ones and these are the synoptic gospels and whatever. I have a channel which has science videos on it, which is Brightside, which I made about 10 videos on at one point. And then I have one which is called Jill Hair Up. And that's where I put all of my hair tutorials. Sometimes people ask for a hair tutorial, you know, they're like, how do you do the hair in this video? And I'm like, I have a link for that.
Why is there no workshop on SFeraKon?
Yeah, so I have done separate channels for things, but because YouTube is now, it takes each video as it comes, it's easier to just put everything on the main channel and then go, well, the people interested in that topic will watch it. It doesn't, you know, each video doesn't necessarily affect the next one. So I'm just like, well, let's just put them all under my name. And then you can see them and watch which ones you want.
You mentioned that your husband is a mathematician. Did he explain you one piece of advice that we didn't cover in these 2 days? Basically the power law, the Pareto principle, and stuff from social network, from graph theory, from method theory. Because basically when people go out to YouTube or any kind of publishing, they are not aware that they cannot escape hidden mathematical laws. Basically, there is a small number of videos which will do exceptionally well. There is a bunch of videos which nobody will watch. And there was an interesting question yesterday about piracy. And if you sell any kind of product, you are governed by some kind of mathematical formula called logistic law, logistic growth, and you cannot escape it. So basically, having a mathematician at home helps with that.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it does, but I certainly complain to him about a lot of things, and then he says, "Yeah, but you know." I think the 80-20 rule is very apropos on YouTube. Actually, I read a statistic somewhere that if you have a YouTube video and it gets more than 1,000 views, you are in the top 20% of videos on the platform, because most videos get none or like 5. And so if your videos which get millions of views are just the tippity top. YouTube is very different. It's very different from when I started, but I think that YouTube is trying to they're trying to spread the love out a bit, which you know, big YouTubers. You may have seen a bunch of big YouTubers go, "Our views, they are down. They're down so much. Everything is bad. What is happening? We're losing so much money." And that is true, but it's not because fewer people are watching YouTube videos. More people are watching YouTube videos, but YouTube has decided that maybe it should try and spread the love out a little bit wider, which I think can only be a good thing for the long-term health of the platform, even if the people who were previously very famous are now less famous. I still do shorts though, and so every so often lots of people still watch my videos, but the videos that I did in anything that happened in 2020 or 2021 basically doesn't count. It's like, that was a time. And everyone was stuck at home and everyone was watching YouTube videos. So you cannot compare those numbers to 2026 numbers. But I'm hoping that they are trying to, you know, spread things out a bit. We shall see. Mostly what my husband says is, they're just people on the internet. I wouldn't worry about it too much, which is really, it's good advice.
Just out of curiosity, have you considered how long are you going to keep on doing this? Is there I'm not asking about your lifespan. I'm asking whether there's some sort of YouTube retirement at some point.
Sure.
Mathematical formulas.
There are mathematical formulas for that. So basically, there is the YouTuber graph tends to go that hang on, do it this way. So no one's really interested in you, no one's really interested in you, and then if you do manage to strike it lucky, you have a big kind of spike and you grow up to a point where you're the most popular you've ever been, and then you sort of start to decline. And the point from start to finish, or at least the point from well-known to finish, tends to be about 7 years. So my channel took off in 2020. So we'll see how that goes. What I have thought about it, because and my conclusion is, if I stop making enough money on YouTube to support myself, I will just go and get another real people job, because, you know, I have had real people jobs. This one's more fun, but, you know, so is eating. I think that the problem that a lot of YouTubers who actually get successful have is that they see the thing going up and they don't think that it'll ever come back down again. And then they haven't saved any money, and they don't have a pension, and they're 35 and they have all of the marketable skills that come with having a successful YouTube channel, but like those can be hard to explain to normal people. Like, what can you do? Like,
Thumbnails.
I'm really good at thumbnails. I'm not really good at thumbnails, but theoretically, I'm better at thumbnails than most people. Yeah, so I'm riding the wave as long as it goes, and what tends to happen for the people who do it longer is that they ride the wave of something, like I did sword content, and then we ride the wave of something else, and now there's book content, and I don't know what the next thing is going to be, but maybe there'll be something, or maybe I will be going back to get like a real people job where you have to leave the house and not wear your pajamas while editing, which will be sad, but you know. it's been a fun time regardless.
So, on the topic of real people jobs, do you have anything to say about balancing doing YouTube or any kind of content part-time along with a normal real people job?
I do, because I did that for 9.5 years. If you are the kind of person that I am not, then a really good thing you can do is batch produce. So you have like one day where you go, I'm writing scripts, and you write 3 or 4 scripts. And then if you have a day where, you know, you set up all the lights, or you get all the lamps from all the places in the house, if you're me when I started, and then you film 3 or 4 videos all on the same day, because filming has a lot of overhead. And then you edit all of those together, and then you can release them, you know, 1 week apart. Batching is really useful. I'm terrible at it because I get an idea and immediately want to do it, and then lose enthusiasm otherwise. But batching content and pre-figuring out what you're going to do is a really good one. The other one is, it's not like, especially if you're not monetized on YouTube, it's not that serious, so don't freak out. Like, no one's going to cancel you because your video is a week late. It's better to have the better video that you are really proud of than to have put out 4 videos in 4 weeks. And the other one is, you're capable of more than you think. It's really, you know, I know a lot of full-time YouTubers, and when we got into the pandemic, I was making videos, like as soon as my job finished, I was like, well, now we're doing homeschooling, I guess, but also Peppa Pig exists, so we can make some videos, not as many as I would like, but you know, we're making some videos. And one of my friends was like, you're really getting through that. I'm like, give me 2 hours where nobody bothers me and watch me go. So like, that's the real key, I think, is the block of time where nobody bothers you and watch how much you can get done in that time.
First, I have to say that you have given us very interesting and good tips for how to become a successful YouTuber. And I have only one question. Do you plan to collaborate with other YouTubers?
So I said this yesterday, that collaboration is a really good thing to do, and I'm also really bad at it. And I felt a bit bad about this. I mean, a lot of it is because a lot of YouTubers are American. I imagine this is even more of a problem here. Mind you, the number of like Croatian YouTubers is probably smaller, so you probably like know someone who knows them already. I grew up in Northern Ireland. It's a very small place, so sort of like, do I know this person? No, but my godmother's cousin. Collaborations are really good. I'm really bad at them. I feel a little bit better about this because there's a thing called the SFeraKon lexicon. It's like a book where they get some of the guests to answer questions, and so you can read what everybody wrote the years before you. And one of the questions they ask is, if you could write a book with anyone, who would it be? And so half of the answers in the book are, you know, like really famous people, or, you know, if he were still alive, Tolkien, or, you know, I'd really like this person, or whatever. And the other half of the answers are, no, I would never collaborate with anyone. I don't do that. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe I'm not alone then. I encourage collaboration, but that's very much a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
So you keep mentioning the other YouTubers you have met so far.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get something interesting to learn about the creator social circles?
No. Just because I like I like most of these people, and if I don't like them, then I definitely shouldn't say bad things about them, and if I do like them, then I shouldn't smack talk them on, you know, in front of a room full of people, or the internet. That said, if you've ever watched things about author drama, or like actor drama, YouTuber drama is really kind of like that, except you know, sometimes they're on opposite ends of the country, so they have beef, but at great distances. I tended to run with like the educational crowd, and they are very much less insane than like the sort of, I don't want to say Mr. Beast because I've never actually met him. I've like talked to him glancingly one time, and he was perfectly pleasant to me. But the sort of Mr. Beast style, they call it, you know, like the young people content where everything's really high energy and we're jumping off a tall building and giving $10,000 to a snake. You know, whatever. I'm very glad. I really love my job, and I love being a YouTuber, but I'm also very glad that I didn't become YouTube famous until I was well into my 30s, because I don't think this is very good for developing brains. Like, it's very much like the child actor thing, except with child actors, everybody knows that it's not really that good for you, and they, from what I heard on the Harry Potter panel yesterday, like, they try to shield them from that as much as possible, especially on the big productions. But when it comes to YouTubers, like, oh boy, some of the kids are not all right. California now has a new law where if you do family vlogging content and you involve your children, you now have to have, in America they call it a Coogan account, after Steve Coogan, who had all of his money stolen by his parents, I think. That's how it went. Basically, if you're a child actor, 10% of everything you make as a child actor goes into an account that no one can touch. Not you, not your parents, not anybody till you turn 18. And they're now saying in California, you have to do that for your children if you're family vlogging. Which has meant that some very prominent family vloggers have left the state of California to go other places where you don't have to give children the money that they earned by, you know, showing their entire lives on the internet. But there we go. YouTubers are just like regular people. They're often nerdier by a considerable degree, but, you know, like, they would all fit right in here, is what I'm saying. And any of the really bad things are generally covered by non-disclosure agreements, and so I couldn't talk about them anyway.
Okay, we talked about the balance between like working a regular job and having creating videos for YouTube. But how about this thing? How do you balance out working full-time on a YouTube channel and a social life? Because from what I have understood from other YouTubers, like, it's not a problem to like create a video. Editing a video is a problem. Like, it takes a really long time, and I heard people talking about like you get really, really lonely, you're alone at home, and you're working on this thing, you get crazy. I mean, I worked from home for years writing articles on the internet, and yeah, it gets really, really lonely. You start missing contact with other people. I can't go out, I should finish this first, and that kind of like, how do you manage that?
I think some of it is that you, if you are kind of lucky enough to be able to do it full time, accepting that you, how do I put this? Like, you have to know what enough is, and then when you get to enough, you have to put it down and go be a human. And there are many good reasons for that, but like, there's always another thing you could make. There's always another thing you could work on. There is always more money that you could make theoretically, but it's very important to be able to say, no, I have enough. I'm gonna go be a real person. And the nice thing about going and being a real person is that it tends to make you better at your job as well. It makes you happier, and it makes you better at your job. So, you know, you're winning on both sides. I take, well, not today because I'm here doing this, but I take usually Sundays off entirely, so I don't look at anything work related for an entire 24-hour period. Just like, nope, I don't care if it's on fire, it can wait till tomorrow. And mostly things aren't on fire, so, you know, that's good. That helps, I think, having, but also when I went full-time, I already had, you know, like, husband and child and social life, and so if you having to like leave the house every day to take my daughter to school and then pick her up again is really good because you get to meet the real people It's like, hello, people who do like useful things in society. Hi, how's it going? I know a lot of nurses, it's great. You know, anytime I'm like, and then I go, I'm like, these guys like, you know, save lives for a living. Perspective, yeah. Yes, I think, yeah, you have to know what enough is, and you have to be able to draw that line and go, no, I'm putting this down now, and it's going to be okay. Also, most full-time YouTubers, I do not because I'm terrible, but most full-time YouTubers, their first hire or contractor is an editor, because editing eats up so much of your time. And it can be hard to get people to hire editors even when they should, because it's not, you know, it's very doable, because they don't want to relinquish the control, because YouTubers are often also control freaks. You did not hear that here. You don't need to hear it here. You just need to ask YouTubers about themselves, and it will become obvious that a lot of us are control freaks.
What I wanted to ask is, how come you decided to become a YouTuber and not do some other quote-unquote real job?
Well, when I was a kid, there were two things that I really wanted to be. One of them was a 3-day eventer, so that's, you know, someone who rides horses, like the dressage with the horse dancing and the cross country and the show jumping. Really wanted to be a 3-day eventer, but I didn't have a horse, which is... but I also wanted to be a TV presenter. That was my other thing. It was like 3-day eventing or TV presenting. They even rhyme. So I graduated from university with my engineering degree in 2008. And then I wanted to be a vicar in the church. And so I went and got a bunch of church-related jobs. And in 2010, I went to the panel where they tell you if they're going to recommend you to go and have theological training. And they were like, no. Like, maybe in 10 years, but no, not now. And I said, oh, so now I have an engineering degree in the middle of a recession and no work experience. So I became a nanny because it was like there were part-time hours. The pay was actually really pretty good. And, you know, we had moved into this house which no one had redecorated since 1985. So I had plenty of things to do. And like 5 months into this job, I got really bored. Because they were nice kids. It was a good job. It wasn't too hard. I was having a good time, but I wanted to make stuff. And I had watched a lot of That Guy with the Glasses, like the Nostalgia Critic, which was really quite big at the time. I was like, I could do that, but less shouty. And so that is how I started making YouTube videos. I was like, I'm going to be the Nostalgia Critic, but less shouty. And then it turned out that I really liked it because it was just, I'd always done blogging, but it's, you know, turns out that I find it easier to express myself when I have my whole body as well as the words. And so I was like, oh, people are actually watching this. It's fun. So I tried it, and then I found that people actually wanted to watch it, at least a little bit. And just sort of kept going, and it's been 15 years and it hasn't got boring yet, so I'm still here.
More like a fun question for me rather than like a professional question.
Sure.
When you get your armor made, are we getting more of the combatant armor, sword stuff, or?
Oh, I hope so. So I should explain, for those of you in the room unfamiliar, that when I, the thing which I got well known on YouTube for was stage combat. So I would take like a fight from one of the Star Wars movies and go, this is actually, you know, people are ragging on this, but I think it's really good because it does this in terms of storytelling and choreography and whatever. And after I wrote my book, and a bunch of people bought it, I went, wow. And they said, what are you going to do with the money? And I was like, well, first I'm going to pay off my mortgage because I am a responsible adult. And that was awesome. And I said, but for the business, for like the YouTube business, I'm buying a suit of armor. And it has been a long time in the making. My next fitting is on the 15th of May, but when I went last time, I have all of the clothes which go underneath it, like Landsknecht So I look like 15th century Ronald McDonald, basically. Because they said, you know, with Landsconnect, if you want the sort of traditional colors, like red and yellow is very traditional, and also just the brightest colors. So if you look like a clown, you're doing it correctly. I said, okay, good stuff. You also get a very fancy hat, which looks a bit like a pie has hit you on the side of the head, but it's all good. I do not have a fader. It does not come with the suit of armor, but you know, that doesn't mean I can't get one. So yes, I'm getting the suit of armor, and I have a whole series of things planned to do once I get the suit of armor. I have taken up running. But, I mean, it's for a good cause, because I went, right, what we're going to do is we're going to do, what can you do in a suit of armor? And so, like, jumping on a trampoline in normal clothes, and then trying to jump on a trampoline in a suit of armor. I was like, you're going to kill yourself. I was like, okay, well, maybe we'll work up to that one. Like riding a bicycle normally, and can you ride a bicycle in a suit of armor? Because obviously you're supposed to be able to ride a horse, right? So, you know, bicycle. But also I went, well, what about running? And so there's this thing they do, I don't know if you guys have this in physical education, it's called the bleep test. And you have 2 points which are 15 meters apart, and you have to run from one to the other, and every time it bleeps, you go again, and it gets progressively faster. And so I went, okay, so there's the police bleep test. So they do it in schools as well. And so I tried to do the police bleep test to see if I could do it. And you have to get to like level 5.4. I died at level 3.3 and went, this is embarrassing. So I've taken up running, and now I can get to level 5.5. I still feel like I'm dying, but at least I pass it. Because I was like, I can't get on the internet and run so badly. That would just be embarrassing. So yes, I have lots of things planned for this. And also I am taking suggestions for other stupid things that you can do in a suit of armor, because I'm going to have one soon and it's going to be amazing.
How do you do Brookings festival? Like, do you usually attend Renn Faire and historical events, like historical museums? Because the community is really nice, and it's also in Croatia, happening every end of the August, and there are a lot of also nights. Landsknechts, peasants, everyone, like, it's really crazy and big and huge nice event where all the city, like city center, is closed and actually becomes medieval for 3.5 days.
That sounds awesome. I haven't actually been to a Renaissance fair or anything. People keep inviting me to Pennsylvania, among other places, but I do really want to go to one soon. I had a call once with the lady from Ingram Spark, which is one of the places that prints my books. And she was like, yeah, I got some statistics together about your book and the places that we've sold it. You know, it's like this many copies in this country and this many copies in this country. And in the US, they break it down by state. And she said, yeah, you sold like 3 times as many copies in the state of Pennsylvania as any other state in the US. Do you know why? And I said, no. And so I went and asked my audience, and they were like, Pennsylvania has this, you know, it's got the biggest, fanciest Renn Faire. It's also got a lot of people who are really into like romantasy, but not the super like spicy stuff. So maybe you just, you know, Pennsylvania likes me. And they keep inviting me to their Renaissance fair, so maybe I'll have to go there too. That being said, Croatia is definitely an easier lift. It's like 2.5 hours on Ryanair, you know.
For the suit of armor, you can do a lecture.
Yes, definitely. Like, no, you have to invite me back once I get my suit of armor, so I can do. Can you lecture at SFeraKon in a suit of armor? But if I faint halfway through, then you have to promise not to laugh.
How did you get into sword and armor and stuff? Maybe it was asked before, but I don't know.
Also by accident. I mean, like as a kid, I was into kind of Robin Hood and stuff, but I got into stage combat specifically because when my husband and I moved to Canterbury, we had a little toddler, and I was who now slept, which she had not previously really done. And I was like, I have moved to a new place, and I know nobody, and I have no friends, and I am, you know, like looking after this baby, and so I don't, you know, I don't have a job to go to make friends. What am I going to do? I need a hobby. I need a hobby that gets me out of the house. And then I went to see The Last Jedi. And in The Last Jedi, like, having now watched it like again several years later, I now understand why people don't like it. I do like it, but I figured out why. And the reason is that I had completely forgotten all of the bits that kind of don't make sense and go on for a bit too long. I was like, oh yeah, this happened. And then they just went to that random planet. Oh, completely forgotten all of that. I just like the bits with Rey and Kylo Ren and those tiny little puffin things. That's like, you know, that's what I remember. But I saw the scene in the throne room with the lightsabers and everything's on fire and it's just so beautiful. And I went, you know what? There has to be a way to learn to do that specifically. Like, not actually fighting with swords, but pretending to fight with swords, that must be a thing. So I Googled it, and they said, yeah. In fact, in the summer, you can come to the Sir Roger Manwood School in Sandwich, Kent. Sunny Sandwich, where the food is named after. And you can be there for a week, and we, you know, you have a bed, and we feed you 3 times a day, and we teach you to pretend to fight with swords. And I went, yes, that's what I'm doing. And so I went and was like, I was 32, and everybody else was like a 22-year-old drama student. But, you know, they were all really nice to me, and I had a great time. And they said, yeah, you know, you're actually, you've clearly grasped the fundamentals, and I passed all of the exams. I said, you should do this some more, so I did. And that is how I turned my hobby into my job. And I have been turning hobbies into jobs ever since.
Speaking about turning hobbies into jobs, and we asked yesterday when I talked about the potentially maybe made a Spanish movie. Has anybody asked you if you would agree to play Rosamund? Does it think that she looks like you, and you are an actor combatant?
I mean, true, but also I don't speak Spanish. And yeah, no, the main way they get funding, I think, for films is that they try to attach actors that people in the acting industry have heard of, as opposed to, if I did it, like, it's like, yes, you're a YouTuber, but that's not, you don't have sort of mainstream recognition, which is also fine because I'm okay at acting. I like to think I'm reasonably good at it, but I'm not sure I'm like an entire movie directed, how many syllables? Directed and edited by someone else. Like, my acting performances are pretty good when I'm doing the scripting and the editing and the directing, but, you know, I feel like probably they'd be better with someone who is better at the acting as a discrete thing. Like, I can make myself look good, but I don't know if other people can make me look good. Anyway, yes, if there aren't any more questions, then I'm going to say, I'm going to release you from this room and say thank you so much for coming. It's been really fun.